Philosophers talk to our times. Here's a question for you in the morning light. Which thinker first coined the expression survival of the fittest? That's meaningless truism. Well, I guess I give you half point if you immediately knew, without guessing too badly, that it wasn't Darwin. Darwin never really liked the phrase. He adopted it in the second edition of The Origin of Species because everybody else was using it. So whose phrase was it? No, it wasn't Nietzsche. Nietzsche loathed Darwinianism out of interest and was a far more nuanced thinker than any trite exposer of such a notion as survival of the fittest. Well, I think the phrase was first used by the co-author of Evolution, Wallace. But he was a minor writer. The person who really popularised it was the great Victorian philosopher who you probably have never heard of, Spencer, Herbert Spencer. Like Nietzsche, he lived in boarding houses and wrote about a world where biology was going to take the place of God. But he was unlike Nietzsche in all other things. Nietzsche understood the full subtlety of this. Spencer, he merely saw it as another way that Western civilization, the fittest of the fittest, had the right to oppress the world. He was gripped by two ideas. The first was the boy's own theory of society. The boy's own theory of society is that society is like a human body, and there are clever people at the top. They're the ones with the great IQs. By the way, if anybody ever says to you they've got a great IQ to you, just ignore them. A lifetime of teaching, I'm going to do it in another blog today, proves to me that IQ means fuck all. But anyway, they were the ones who ought to be on the top because they were the brains of the outfit. And the people in the guts who coped with the shit, the poor, they deserved it. And the people you trod on, the distant voices of old in far off lands, who muscular Christianity was inflicted on it, really they had it coming. They weren't the fittest, you see. So society was like a body, and that body was in a struggle with other bodies, other societies, and only the best had won. And in that kind of vainglorious assertion of Western ideology, that was the dominant trope of Victorian thought, the white man's burden and all that. Spencer was absolutely certain that the triumph of human history was the triumph of England and its empire. Now, thank God, of course, this doctrine didn't last the First World War. It was one of the good things to die in the mud of Flanders. I mean, it was good that it died. And yet, of course, all things get resuscitated. And it gets resuscitated by Hitler, doesn't it? And resuscitated by every doctor, every exponent, threadbare or otherwise, of the right. Because it is that philosophy of the right. They can't abandon Spencer and this idea that somehow they, whoever they are, represent the final moment in human history, the fittest, the best. By which, of course, they mean those who were most able to wage warfare. And yet, of course, there is a very modern irony, a twist upon this fact. You see, for Spencer, still understood himself as part of the Enlightenment. Just to remind you, in case you mistake me for a stupid relativist, I'm no sort of relativist. I am absolutely content to say that there have been great breaks in human history that totally changed the dynamic of human power, from which you can never go back. One was, of course, the agriculture, and then following possibly as much as 1,000 years later, or even more, city life. But the other one was in the 18th century. And the overthrow of a fundamentally theological, belief-based view of the world, with one based on, I suppose science is the best phrase for it, an engagement with the world that seemed thought to understand it and frame its way to deal with that world through that attempt to understand it. So science. buttressed by something called reason, but I wouldn't go along with the reason bit of it. And that this fundamentally changed the world. Progress, I don't know, it's different. I'm not sure I believe in progress if progress means we suddenly know more and we're finding out the truth. Because that's just theology in another name. And its exponents like Dawkins are just modern theologians. But it is a massive break on how we understand and deal with the world. And the post-Enlightenment societies, the ones that Spencer was dealing with, had a great more power at their elbow. And that was, of course, why survival of the fittest was such a good phrase for him, because it confused power, by which it meant gunboats, with morality and being better. And so, absolutely welded into the West, this idea of Western supremacy, based on the gunboat as morality, survival of the fittest. You see how it works? And now, of course, in our post-Enlightenment society, the modern, whatever we want to call them, Trumpists, MAGA. I'm uncomfortable with the word fascist for reasons that I've talked about 2 days ago, really, although I do use the shorthand and then regret using it. That movement, of course, have rocked back a little bit have rocked back totally from the Enlightenment, and effectively has fetishized Spencer in a way he would have ironically loathed by putting Christianity back at its central position. Christianity and some sort of threadbare nationalism that I actually think he wouldn't have recognised. He believed in empire and the domination of the West over the entire globe. So we end up with the worst of all worlds. Both the Enlightenment and this notion that the fittest have survived and we are the fittest. And if I hope for anything in future times, I hope that when we've lived through this, we'll finally let Spencer die. Let this idea that the fittest, that is those that have survived, are somehow best, die with him. Rubbish. It's as stupid as saying that philosophers should rule. Philosophers shouldn't rule. They know nothing. And the fittest, they're just often the luckiest. Or those that are heirs to someone else's genius, which they use to blight the world. Survival of the fittest, and Spencer must die. And if you have no other thought today, it is always worth going back through your mind and thinking how much you still owe to this idea of progress that is so dark, that goes to so many evil places, and how you can rid your mind of it and help others understand themselves afresh. Because if we don't, we're screwed.